Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the News Behind the News with Ralph and Tav on Mix 94.7 FM. And thank you for joining me on today's program. This afternoon, we're going to yet again delve into the realm of agriculture and planting, because as we know, food security is of utmost importance. I think it's great to basically engage practitioners here on the island in terms of what it's like, things that we can learn, but also ways in which we can realize some solutions to the agricultural sector here in St. Martin, which is, I think, definitely growing. And so today I have here with me Mr. Josiah Halley. Good afternoon to you, sir, and thanks for being on the program.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Okay, great. So could you tell us a bit about yourself, Josiah, and also what led you into this field?
Okay.
No pun intended.
No worries. Well, currently, I started up a little farm called Our Root Farms here, where we're growing a lot of different vegetables for the market. But initially, I got into this about 10 years ago. I was actually working with a British gentleman who was doing landscaping, and we were installing irrigations and putting in a lot of ornamental plants and making people's gardens look nice and maintaining the gardens and stuff. A lot of villas and lowlands, and that started to pique my interest really into agriculture and planting things, and what really led me to get into it.
Okay. And I'm curious then if you can share what was your start like, having realized this is pretty interesting. Where did you go? How did you, what was your first set of steps?
At the time, I actually lived on a friend's side, and I had a pretty big yard. So I kept landscaping with this guy, and we mostly were finished by 2:00. So I started gardening in my own yard, planting some tomatoes, some cabbage, just a small amount of stuff, and seeing, kind of how it would go. And as I saw that it was going good, I just kept expanding. And eventually I got a little piece of land up in Anse Marcel.
Okay.
And started farming on a larger scale, mostly seasoned peppers and tomatoes. And yeah, that's how I kind of got my start, and I kept landscaping all the time. And yeah, then I just kept taking it more and more serious until I could sustain myself from just farming. And I stopped landscaping at that point. And actually it was like perfect timing because the British guy he was leaving to the US, so that company was kind of shutting down, so I kind of wouldn't have a job anymore. So it was just perfect to step into that.
Okay, and then you've been doing that full time since?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So even with that, throughout that whole period, were you moving solo? Did you get help from anyone? What was that like?
When I was on the friend side, I had a guy working with me, and we had known each other from previously working actually on the charter boat industry here in St. Martin, and we worked together. And when I had the opportunity to leave the island to do agriculture on a little bit bigger scale, and he actually left to go to Australia after Irma.
Oh wow!
And in Australia, he continues to be involved in agriculture and selling food and stuff like that. So yeah, I left for some years, and now that I've come back, I saw that in the pandemic people really wanted like plants, and they were getting really into the farming, and I had the knowledge, so I said, okay, let me try to look for some land and start back up. And yeah, I've had like family of mine really help me, friends step in, volunteer some days, and just kind of get it rolling. But now, yeah, I'm about to hire and take things like up another step.
Okay, so with what you shared, I'm curious then in terms of while you really went with the long haul, what were some of the errors and the lessons that you had to learn early on?
I mean, I think like the biggest things for like a farmer like that you really need to learn is like how much of what to plant, the timing in which to plant it, so that you're like consistent. You don't overgrow, so you don't have a lot of waste. I would say those were like the biggest errors I made in the beginning, was like growing things that I thought people may want, but they didn't want, so I ended up getting stuck with them. But then, like I paid attention to what people were buying and just started to focus more and more on those type of things. And those things change over time, so you have to kind of pay attention, like,
consumer behavior.
Yeah, so you have to pay attention. Superfoods are coming in and out of fashion, this and that.
Yeah.
So,
And some things are just constant.
yeah, I
as
would
well.
say they're more constant, yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. And even with that then, what are some of the things or the products that people usually ask for? Well, crops or goods, rather.
Well, in St. Martin, like seasoned peppers, thyme, sweet peppers, like plum tomatoes, these things always sell, like ground foods, they always sell. But I found out because I was away for some years, when I came back and I started growing a couple of the traditional things. Then I realized, wow, okay, we have like islands around us really growing a lot of like the seasoned peppers. It's not hard to compete with them, but still, they're very established. So I had to look for some like new things to get into. And, people are really into the greens right now. So I started getting into arugula, leaf lettuces and stuff like that. And actually, those have been some of the top sellers. A lot of Asian greens. And what I did is I actually ended up getting a lot of seeds from China directly. And the Chinese are buying quite a bit of greens, so bok choy, pak choys, mustard greens, yu choys. So, dealing with the different cultures here, all of that, this is I've had to learn like what vegetables they eat and cater a little bit to them as well.
Okay, and were you able to also sell to larger food establishments or even maybe just restaurants, caterers maybe as well and so forth?
Yeah, so
like, and how do you go about doing that as well?
So I've definitely deal with some restaurants. Untitled Shack has been, a Bushman and Untitled Shack have been very, very supportive from day one. And he has sent a lot of people my way as well. The farmers market at Port Plaisance, they now have a foundation down there. Those guys have been extremely, extremely helpful. Ishel, that whole team there, like, they've been very supportive of farmers and getting customers to see you without having to invest money yourself in there. And so that's been really, really good to bring more and more clients to the farm. And I leaned on my old contacts before I left. I just kind of told everyone, hey, I'm back. I have Arrowroot Farms now. This is what I intend on growing. And slowly it's been building up like that.
So what would you say would be probably the barriers to entry, in a sense, to really develop an agricultural company here in St. Martin? And can you also explain some of the hurdles that you had to leap over?
Yeah, sure. So I think in St. Martin, the biggest thing is probably land. Land being so valuable for everything else other than farming it, right? And it definitely being much more easy money than farming. I think a lot of people don't have interest so much in farming themselves or in renting their land or letting it be used for farming. So the biggest hurdle for me was finding land at a fair deal where it made sense to cultivate it. And I'd say water, electricity, the prices are prohibitive if you're not smart about how you use it. But those are the major hurdles. I know the government is now trying their best to somehow get people more and more involved in agriculture. But I'd say land. Land is the biggest problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because as you said that, even particularly with people who may have land, but just agriculture being maybe not even a thought at all on their minds, I understand where, that's just been that shift St. Martin made since the 60s and so forth, continuing throughout the decades where, our main focus is the tourism agriculture, planting stuff that we used to do on a regular in the past, has diminished. But at the same time, I think at this point, especially viewing the lockdown, viewing what's presently happening around the world, it really makes you realize the need to do something with whatever available land you have, even for your own home, because with prices of goods going up, shortages in several parts of the world, and God knows what else will be happen, and just worst case scenario, you're not able to import food, then you got to work what you have, but you don't want to do it right then and there. You got to do it now or from yesterday, actually,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, certain crops grow fast, but not that fast. You know what I mean? So yeah, like farming, it takes planning. You're not gonna be like self-sustaining from today to tomorrow, But I'm sure if we really had a good look at the amount of money that is put into imports, if we could just even tap into that. There's a lot of space for many people to do agriculture and be very successful at it. It's just we need that little support to get properties at a nice rate. Farming is very risky.
Yeah.
So, some of the biggest support government could give is giving tax breaks to farmers. I know there's like for instance on the fruits and stuff, there's no turnover tax and stuff like that, but it's a real actual production from the ground up, fully local, like it's grown in local ground, harvested here, feeding people here. Something should be looked at because, farming is very risky and profits are not always the biggest. So to entice some more people to get into it, I think those are the type of things that government could really do. Also, when I first got into farming, I have friends in Anguilla that were farming on a smaller scale as well. And I would go to Anguilla to get seedlings. The Department of Agriculture there gave me massive support in getting seedlings. And when you think like, wow, I take a ferry, go get, a couple of 10, 20, 30 trays of seedlings to come back to St. Martin with. And I'm thinking St. Martin there's so much more going on at that time. And we don't have anything like that. Anguilla really, and all the British Islands really, they really support farmers. They'll come and till the soil for you. They'll have a tractor with a tiller, and they'll have seedlings, and they'll help you put in a drip irrigation. And, so they encourage that very, very much. And I think like St. Martin could go right across there and get a very good example of, how government could support.
Yeah, correct. Because you're not asking government to do everything, but government has a role, of course.
Yeah.
Because and they keep tying it back to that food security factor, and when you lead a people or nation, like part of your responsibility is their well-being, and the food is like top of the chain, priority, in terms of priority and need.
But I must say, if you come to the farmers market and you see the people who are vending produce, they're really doing their best to be consistent.
Yeah.
There's quite a few people that are coming there. I see more and more people coming all the time. So privately, people are just taking the initiative to do it, and a little bit of government support, I think they'd be very surprised to see what could happen.
Yeah, because one thing that comes to mind, I'm curious on how do you work your land as far as, let's say you have like just as you started in the beginning with your yard, let's say you receive a whole new plot of land. What goes into dividing it? How do you determine what goes where and all of that?
Okay, so for me, it just depends on the type of crops I'm going to put on that property, first of all. I grow certain things in the ground and certain things hydroponically. And, it really depends. Here, a lot of the land is hilly, so it's kind of your advantage to terrace the land so that the land doesn't wash away, things like that. I initially kind of clear the land systematically, try to leave some of the good trees. If you have fruit trees and stuff like that, I try to leave them in place. And then, like at my farm here at Our Roots now, we basically are growing in raised beds and also terraced directly in the ground. And, we make our own compost. We do biochar. We keep adding.
Biochar?
Yes.
What's that?
So, biochar is like basically a type of charcoal, and we add it to the compost to add a lot of organic material to it. But because it's so porous and it's also fairly neutral, the charcoal absorbs a lot of the nutrients, and the little holes are good for like microbes and stuff like that to live in. And so we kind of supercharging the soil and adding a lot of organic material that will last hundreds and hundreds of years.
Interesting.
So, slowly we amend the soil constantly, and I really try to till my soil only once when I initially set the beds up, and then after that we just kind of always make rows and pull and plant directly back into it.
Okay, so, and well, when you say once, I mean like once a year, once a couple of...
No, initially when I prepare that area to plant.
Okay, I gotcha.
When you're adding organic material for the first time, St. Martin has a quite rocky and hard soil. So I remove some of the rocks and then amend it and, try to keep it fluffy and so that water could stay on it. And yeah.
Okay. So with that, listening to you, and again, I'm thinking on your trajectory, basically, to get into the point to where you're at. Anguilla, for example, you even mentioned was quite a resource. You have friends who are agriculture. But what was your go-to in terms of learning to become a farmer besides trial and error, but any specific books, did you do any courses, etc.? Or
I did like some online courses like farming and economics, reading a lot of books like Teaming with Microbes, which was like a big one, teaming with nutrients, things like that. Just constant literature. If you're growing things and you see you're having a constant problem, more than likely there's tons of articles about it online. And if you want to get like really in depth to it, a lot of universities have studied these things, put papers out, and you slowly learn, and also you start to learn that certain varieties of things just don't do well here. Pests will always attack it, but let's say this kale doesn't do well, but this other variety of kale does. So let's just grow the other variety. So there's a little bit of that as well,
So with that also, what would you say are some of the difficult crops to grow as well on the island?
I'd say like the harder crops to grow on the island would be wow. It's so funny because like now there's a way to approach them all, but I'd say the hardest are probably the fancy lettuces, because temperature-wise they're a little bit harder to grow. Mostly that. Certain types of tomatoes, maybe they don't love it, but there's other varieties that do. And then there's just some certain cold weather stuff, like when you really think about like cold weather, Brussels sprouts, things like this. You can grow them here, but they're not like really prolific producers.
Yeah,
so we stay away from certain things like that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad you also share that, because
but there's ways around everything, huh? You can basically do what you like.
Yeah.
As long as you know kind of the science behind what needs to happen.
So then you in a sense you created a lab.
Yeah, with enough money and knowledge, you could technically do what you like.
That's true.
But you always got to be careful when you're talking about massive investments.
Yes.
The more technology, the more automation you put into things, the more expensive it does get to run. And when things do happen, they tend to be more catastrophic.
Okay. So I'm glad you even share that, because I was wondering about your practices in general. Is it very much traditional, or how, to what degree do you incorporate new equipment, but smart farming, etc., in your operation? Or are you just building to get to that point?
So, I mean, like, I would say, a combination of traditional techniques with modern stuff, because obviously you need to cut down your workload, and you have to install fail safes and things like that. But so, like, my irrigation and stuff, they're automated, because the more consistent you are with the watering, the better it is for the plants and the more type of stuff you can grow. But at this point, like, I haven't automated my feeding and stuff like that as yet, and I will keep going further and further as my customer base expands, and I get a building permit and things like that, which I can't just start building stuff. But yeah, we will get more and more technological in that sense, but I'll always be doing a combination of, like, traditional techniques in the sense of composting, adding to the beds, growing stuff in the ground, and then doing the hydroponic stuff as well.
Yes.
So
okay. And do you also do any sort of animal rearing as well, or any intention to do so?
Yeah, definitely. Animals, it's something that I like doing. Unfortunately, on the Dutch side, there's no real, I would say, regulations around it right now. I'm sure with certain things that have been in the news lately and stuff like that, people may want those things to start coming. And yeah, I like goats, rabbits, duck, chicken. Those are things that we'll slowly get into. But for now, I'm sticking just on the produce, and yeah, I hope by next winter that we kind of start.
Gotcha. So, in addition to what you've stated, I'm curious about what are the myths that you can debunk as it relates to doing agriculture in St. Martin.
The myths about well, the water situation, I mean, really and truly, a lot of people are thinking there's not a lot of water, or that water's extremely expensive. But if you know how to use even GB water, if that's what you have access to, and you can run quite a large farm without running up too much of a water bill at GB, with, like, targeted irrigations, things like that. So it's not extremely expensive to water a garden. Another myth I would say is that a lot of people think St. Martin's not very fertile.
Yeah, I've always heard that.
But really and truly, we never had massive agriculture here in St. Martin. So the soils are not really, like, I wouldn't say crazy depleted or overworked. There may be some areas where, yeah, that is the situation. I'd say we kept a lot more livestock, things like that. So actually the fields are, like, I mean, if you clean up an area and plant it, you'd be fairly surprised how well stuff grows. Yeah, I mean, I think those are the major myths here, and yeah, I would say the one thing that's not a myth is the iguanas and the monkeys.
Yeah.
Those are real
even with that, what's your go-to dealing with those predators?
Well, it's a battle, constant battle. I mean, for the monkeys, we make some scarecrows and some different things that kind of move around.
And that would...
We have to move the scarecrow every couple of days. We tie stuff to make noise kind of around where, like, tomatoes are or sweet peppers and things like that. And I mean, we constantly have to do things like that. We'll bring a dog, tie him up on the farm, like, from, in the day, different spots, or, let him run around kind of, when people are not there. I've been considering putting some electric fencing, to kind of stop that. And then we wrangle a lot of the iguanas and just kind of remove them from the area.
Yeah, but
we have to catch a lot of them, identify nests,
yeah.
and just kind of like block the holes for the nests, close the nests up so we don't constantly have more and more. But yeah, they're invasive and they're really aggressive, and I've seen them dishearten quite a bit of farmers if you're not taking care.
You mean the
iguanas,
the iguanas.
and the monkeys.
Iguanas can be aggressive.
Not aggressive, but they can fairly quickly eat down quite
sense,
a bit of your farm. And like I've seen a lot of people start growing stuff, and they're just like, Joe, I give up. These iguanas eat everything. You can put netting around and stuff like that. And
is there any? I mean, I don't know if it sounds bad, but any poison you can put for iguanas?
I mean,
or anything that would chase them away, like if they come
like my farm is organic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really want to put poison around the place. I do have a goat that's like he's like a pet, and I have him eating grass around the place, keeping the place a little low. I have some like miniature chickens that are pets and stuff like that. I'm a little paranoid that the poison gets them. Yeah, and they're just so plentiful. I know like this same species of iguana has invaded in Puerto Rico and in Florida like massively. They carry like their droppings and stuff. They contain salmonella, stuff like that. So they're really not it's not a good thing. These aren't the old school iguanas that were down by the pond on the airport, the gray ones, and like on the little pond areas. These are like the green iguanas. And yeah, at some point we're gonna have to think about possibly doing something with them.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, definitely.
Because the monkeys, same thing.
Yeah, because I know there's I think the Nature Foundation has that monkey project. I know they did a research about it and trying to explore ways on controlling the monkey situation.
Yeah.
But the iguanas is another one for sure.
I know a gentleman here. He had a couple hundred pineapple trees and bearing beautifully. I mean, you go to that garden in the back there, and you say, "Wow, this is incredible." And the monkeys eat every single one of them.
Wow.
So it's like super disheartening.
It's heartbreaking.
As a farmer,
that's pretty heartbreaking.
That's super heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So you got to protect your crops. The monkeys will also destroy your chickens and stuff as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, you need to protect these things, and they will kind of stay away once you do that if you're there all the time.
I know some persons just express that their dogs help a lot, even as you said as well.
Yeah, but even recently, I know that they've been killing dogs as well. So, yeah, the monkeys. If they're backed into a corner, even I myself have been bitten in my leg before.
Really?
Yeah. They can be aggressive.
Yeah.
It's not their fault. They didn't come here and say, and they gotta eat. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Those are some of the things that to really develop farming. I mean, you can look at Barbados has a major problem with them in like with the farms and stuff. They have major problems.
Okay, so we're gonna take a quick break and then we'll be right back with more. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the News Behind the News with Ralph Kintav on Mix 94.7 FM. And today I am joined with Mr. Josiah Halley. He is a farmer, entrepreneur right here in St. Martin from the Arrowroot Farms, correct?
Correct.
Great. So I appreciate all that you've been sharing with me so far, Josiah. I almost said Jonathan. Josiah. Definitely some matters worth looking into. I know that one of the things that someone actually shared with me that they do with the iguanas is they tend to, we call it a slingshot. Mm-hmm. But then, of course, you don't have the time to sit on all day trying to hit the iguanas. So yeah. But looking at, again, agriculture, possibilities of growing here on the island, one of the things, that, of course, comes to mind is equipment. I know that is also part of sometimes that top-heavy investment you got to make up front. Can you explain, I guess, your way? So even as you formally explained how you would like divide or work a plot of land when it comes to equipment as well. Of course, the essentials, but also the those that allow you to kind of rest a bit, that you don't overwork yourself.
Sure. I mean, look, like basic equipments that are I consider lifesavers on the work side is, just a simple pump and a sprinkler already is a massive start. It's not super expensive. It's something you can just buy at any hardware store here, and you can connect a timer to that, right? Which they also sell basically at any hardware store, and you already are saving yourself from going outside, 3, 4, 5 times a day to water, right? And then you have something simple like ground cover. You can put ground cover down, make some holes in the ground cover, and plant directly in that, and that'll save you from weeding, right? These are things that are fairly not expensive. I would say extremely accessible, and can actually get you to farm bigger and bigger pieces of your yard, or wherever you choose to kind of set up. You can always get bigger and bigger just by section, and don't have to overwork yourself, and those are the simple type of things. Then you can basically, you can get into creating like an entire lab if you really wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
Always just knowing the bigger your lab becomes, the more electricity it tends to consume. So
would that mean it's less organic?
No, organic really has to do with the inputs, right? So like how you feed your plants and stuff like that. And you can grow hydroponically and organic, right? That's all of that is possible. Basically you can set up something. It looks like a spaceship, but it's organic. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's just about like what you spray on the plants, what you put in the water, or in the soil, depending on how you're growing, what'll make it organic or not.
Okay.
Right?
And what do you tend to use to protect your plants as well?
Well, protection of the plants comes in like multiple ways, right? You got to protect them from the elements. So like in St. Martin, the sun can be very intense, right?
Yeah.
So most of my crops are grown shaded. You have other crops that they thrive in the sun, like peppers and sweet potatoes. And so if you don't want to get a shade cloth, you can start with that, right? Or you can pick a shady spot in your garden to kind of work. The other things to kind of know protection-wise are, you have things like neem. These days, there's a lot of bacterias that are like against the pests, so you don't have to spray chemicals anymore. You can spray pretty much all natural stuff that don't kill. They're very specific, targeting just specific pests. They won't kill any other ones, and they do nothing to us either. They're all bacterias or funguses, and you use them preventatively, and that helps a lot. Those are the main protections you can kind of put for your crop, and protect them from the monkeys and the iguanas as much as you can. Yeah.
Okay, because I was wondering, how deep and widespread is like the whole GMO stuff in the farming industry, and having a organic based operations. I guess does it, in a sense, maybe set you back, or is it you're able to properly function and actually thrive with it? Because of course generally with many other sectors it seems like the over shortcut type of adaptions you think it allows you to produce more, but then to what end? There's a definite cost with that where that's concerned.
Sure. I would say that when you for me to buy a GMO seed is not easy. GMOs are mostly illegal, actually, like in Europe and stuff like that. Most of the food that you eat is actually selectively bred. which is different than a GMO.
Okay.
And organic is actually like a certification, right, that you pay for. And you can use organic methods. I could never, locally maybe I could say put a thing that says organic on my farm, but there's no authority to say that my farm is organic.
Yeah, I understand.
You understand what I'm saying?
Like an FDA or something.
Yeah, and there's no private entity. There's no one really to do that. And to get like one that would do it internationally, it's very, very expensive. So that's a certification. What you really have that you have to worry about with like imported food more so than GMO is the pesticide content. Right? That's really like the huge problem. Pesticides, herbicides, things that build up in the plants, and like some plants are accumulators, so they can be like kind of dirty. So those are the major things to worry about. Most GMO grown crops are actually fed to animals, as far as I know.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, like in Europe, you have to say when things contain GMOs and on the packaging and stuff like that.
It's better regulation.
Yeah, it'd be super processed foods and things like that, which you should stay away from anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't grow GMOs. I don't really know I don't know any farmer here that I've seen has GMO stuff, and like I tell you, it's pretty hard to buy like GMO seeds just like that.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate you explaining that basically, because another thing then I would like to get into is as far as one of the things that I know you're involved with is the herbal awareness, St. Martin.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. And part of that really is discussions on some of the taboo stuff that we have here on the island, one of them being marijuana. So I guess, can you share with us then, what led you to being an advocate or being interested in this awareness process, but also how has it been and the reception of it?
I kind of got involved on herbal awareness because I knew some of the people on the board, and I would say my experiences with farming and things like that, I have been, naturally I would want to see that be developed in St. Martin, and that would get a lot of other type of people interested in farming. I seen it happen on a lot of the other islands where things have been legalized, and I just felt like it's a natural progression for St. Martin to kind of get into that. Also to add, just not to fall back on the tourism side of it, right? And just also develop more industry, right? Anything that has to do with agriculture, and that there would be a market for, should be developed. I feel, and regulations should be put in place. I really feel that would bring investment into agriculture in general, and more development into it. And
how should should St. Martin look into that? How would we regulate it? What are the essentials?
We made a presentation to COM with herbal awareness, and the UN has made recommendations on it. I know Antigua, Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica, all to a certain extent have followed it. Most of them are starting with a medical type of situation.
Where you only get it if you're...
Yeah, a doctor will prescribe it.
Yeah.
It's not like, I would say, it's not like they don't want recreational, but I think it's the way to introduce it, see how people feel about it. They realize, I know at least in Jamaica, that people haven't completely gone insane because things have become legal, and the other islands are following now, the British Islands, and I'd say just regulate it, and put a system in place where people can apply for licenses, grow, and distribute it.
Gotcha. Yeah, and of course, I think even as you stated, the part of, for example, proceeds being that the government, for example, collects through, the regulation and taxing of it, would also be directed towards, like actually investing in agriculture and so forth.
I mean, I don't want to tell government
No,
what to put their money into, but
it's a recommendation.
Yeah.
As a citizen, you have you also have that right.
Yeah.
It's a recommendation.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, any type of agriculture is good, and again, I think you'd get a lot of people who wouldn't even think about agriculture in thinking in agriculture, or at least investing in agriculture. And even if it's cannabis, be it regulated or medical or recreational, it'll just get more people into it. And I mean, hey, if you learn to grow there, or you learn to grow at a regular farm, I mean, these things are translatable, and it's just more industry that is not a tourism industry, and will add to it, but also adds to kind of what is needed locally.
Yep, definitely. So one of the things about farmers, or agriculture, I want to go back to is as it relates to soil health. So how would you? Well, actually, you kind of express a bit on in terms of the fact that there have been mass agriculture in St. Martin, but let's say in your work, having developed your farm, what have you realized are the things that absolutely need to be done to ensure that protection, but your soil health is up to par, basically? Okay,
well, I mean, look, what does happen in St. Martin is we do have a massive erosion of our topsoil. The amount of construction that we've put in place, the amount of concrete, stuff like that, water really flows now when it rains. So it tends to wash away a lot of topsoil. So to really maintain soil health and actually build back our topsoil level, we keep adding organic material every year. There's a sweet spot where the organic material kind of lays, and it breaks down as well. So we keep, we'll just keep adding and adding and adding organic material on a terrace type of level. And this really, it's key to maintaining your soil life. And a lot of people even believe that's basically how the Amazon was kind of created, as a garden. And in most of the Amazon, when you dig to a certain depth, you see those layers of this organic material that people are adding and burning and laying down and burning and laying down to kind of get it semi-fertile. And we work those type of the biochar type of principles.
Okay, interesting. And then even on a networking front, how has it been here on the island, but also even regionally? I do know that there's established regional bodies that provide assistance or resources to farmers as well. Have you been able to leverage that, and can you also share a bit on that front as well?
I mean, I'm not sure. Are you talking in the sense of Department of Agricultures and stuff like that, or
independent agricultural foundations?
Well, not so much foundations as more businesses, I would say. I've been sourcing fruit trees off island, using those resources. Hopefully this summer I'll get a lot of fruit trees to come down.
Okay.
But otherwise than that, I haven't been networking too much outside of St. Martin right now for the agricultural sense. But it is something I do plan on doing. Arrowroot Farms, the system that I'm putting in place here, is something that I would like to replicate on other islands. And I'm in talks right now with another guy in Barbados to put that type of system down over there. And I would like to be able to replicate this farm and do partnerships on other islands to kind of show people that, look, traditional farming can be profitable,
Yeah.
and that if you do include some technology and stuff like that, it can be like not as much work and get more and more people into it, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes giving people that jump start of knowledge is like gives them enough confidence to just like continue, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then and you've, I guess you recognize that you have a foolproof system.
It's not foolproof, but it like if you weren't farming before and you have someone that like, because I mean I failed so many times. I mean, like, you know, lose like 1,000 heads of cabbage, or lose I don't know how many tomato trees. I mean, like we failed terribly, right? So at least there's certain crops that I know they're interesting, they're profitable, and let's start with that. Let me give you like the basic knowledge to, you know, put in that irrigation and feel confident that it like that irrigation will turn on every time, you know, and that you won't lose all your plants. You know, kind of, you may not even know how to cut some of these vegetables, which is something that sounds kind of crazy, but you see it growing and you're not even really sure how to take the fruit or the lettuce leaves off of it when you think about it. Like, wow, so you need to look that stuff up. And you may be cutting it wrong and damaging the amount of times you were going to get a recut, right? Mm-hmm. So if we can like give you all those things, all those SOPs, and just put it in your hand and say, look, we're here to help you. And anything that's going on, call the phone. More than likely, we've seen it before. And if it's outside or what it is, and just like really like give you that confidence. We don't want people to have the learning curve that we had, right?
Yes, correct.
I want you to like
start on a better footing.
Yeah, I really want to work with more people, get more people into it in that sense, even locally, to get more sites, you know, and grow more and more.
Yeah. Right. So you know, I think I've seen people, you know, attempt various different things when it comes to growing. You have those whether persons in cities who use the rooftops, you know, for agriculture, parks. Some persons use containers as well. One of the more common approaches is greenhouses. Have you ever thought of using that adaptation as well, or just solely with hydroponics? And would you also say that is how would you rate, you know, creating a greenhouse? Okay, well,
it depends. Like Saint-Martin's environment is actually like it's fairly conducive to like quite a bit of greenhouse technologies, right? Our relative humidity is always quite low, so like things like evaporative cooling, things like that, they work really well. But they're also expensive, right? So the easiest thing to do is shade, you know, provide shade for your plants. That's like the cheapest and the easiest thing to do. And you know, in farming, the simpler, the better. That's like, you know, the more complicated you get, it's the more fail safes you got to put in place, and you know, like these little kind of problems. You know, hydroponics is a thing. Like if you haven't taught it through before you really start, like you could have total crop failure just because, I don't know, electricity was gone for a day or 2 days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
Or your breaker tripped, or you know, your pump burned out. So, like I just keep saying, look, keep it simple, you know, as you can. When I was abroad, I had a greenhouse which I would consider very high technology, because we were in a very humid environment. We move a lot of air, keep the greenhouse sealed almost at all times. But you know, the situation was a little cooler than here, a little bit higher elevations. So the setup is different. St. Martin, a shade cloth and a little irrigation is more than enough to do almost anything you want.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. I appreciate that explanation as well. I think finally, you know, one of the things, of course, that you know, with of course having very different business models or types of businesses, though, is your pricing structure. How has it been like, determining, what do you sell, what for, and the like?
Okay, so I would say with the pricing of things, I mean, you try to be fair as possible. You obviously go around to the supermarket, see what things cost. I try not to be more expensive than the supermarket because I feel like what's really the point then, it's all good, but when you really have to look at your pocket and you need to survive and you have a family and these type of things, I can understand that you can say, hey, listen, I can't pay you $6 for a head of lettuce, man. That's like, I gotta buy one at the supermarket, right? So you really gotta look at in your costing and try to be competitive with the supermarket. I mean, someone like me right now, I mean, I'm thinking my lucky stars that, shipping is getting expensive, fuel is getting expensive. So things are shifting in the way of the local farmer, where before maybe we would be slightly more expensive in things, but now it's shifting away where we can be competitive, and actually we could be better, because when you cut something today, it'll last 2-3 weeks, and if you ship something and it's already been shipped for 10 days, your shelf life is longer. So when you really look at the losages, at the end of the day, it looks like buying local is cheaper, right?
Yeah, but also the nutrient.
Oh, I mean, not even talking about the vitamin richer, and nutrient level on something that's like semi-live still, I would say, ripened on the tree or the vine. I mean, those things, that goes without saying, like so much more nutritious.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, where is Our Root Farms located, and how can people reach you, contact you?
So you can check us out on Facebook or Instagram, Our Root Farms. Fairly recently, we opened to the public, so that people can just kind of drive in and pick whatever they need. We're in Defiance on the Melford Hazel Road. That's the road going towards Don Beach.
Okay. Yes.
Do not go over the hill. When you turn off the main road, we're like the Fort property on the right. You'll see shade clots and all that. Like it's pretty obviously a farm, and you can come in there any day from 9 to 12, and afterwards from 3 to 6. We're always there, except Sundays.
Yeah. Of course, definitely need your rest day.
Yeah. I mean, I still come into work in the morning, but in the afternoon we're
not
closed.
necessarily for the public.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Josiah, thank you so much for coming on the program. Appreciate all that you've shared, and to the population as well. This, of course, I find very necessary information. As we also, as a community, need to do a whole lot more where food security is concerned. ITIL is life as the rest. That's what to say.
Yeah, ITIL is vital, right? That's
vital.
That's ITIL Shack slogan.
Yeah. So and with that, do take care, and thank you for joining us on today's program. Goodbye.